Hi there, welcome back to the archives. So I want to try to wrap this up. Hopefully, I can wrap this up today. Um, why does he do that? Inside the Minds of Angry and Controlling Men by Lundy Bancroft. So we are getting to the end chapters. Oh, I'm not even here yet. One second. This one we're going to look at the last one we did on breakups. Now we're going to look at abusive men as parents. Okay? What are abusive men like as parents? Are they good fathers? For the most part, they can be really good fathers. Sometimes you'll hear women be like, he treats me terrible, but he's a great father to the kids, right? Um, that can be the case. Sometimes, if he's already abusing the woman, he is more likely to also devalue children. Remember the circles that we showed earlier in the book, where it was like a man sees himself as like the end all be all, right? The alpha and the omega, they are God's gift, and then the women they see as having less autonomy, and then kids have even less. So sometimes they can take that abuse out on their children. This ends up playing a role on the dynamics with everybody in the household, right? The dynamics between the mom and the kids, the siblings and each other. And so that's what this chapter kind of talks about, right? Abuse sends out shock waves that touch every aspect of family functioning. Hostility creeps into mother's relationship with her children. Siblings find themselves pitted against one another. Factions form and shift. Children's feelings about each parent can swing from one extreme to the other. Sometimes they're defending mom, other times they're supporting dad. Um, Mother struggles to keep the relationship with her children strong, even though dad is usually um, creating a wedge between them. And so, again, this is all situation and case by case, but for the most part, it has to do with the abusive parents' mindset, right? Their mindset is that they again are the head of the household. They get to control everybody in the house, right? Including their wife or their girlfriend, their fiance, their partner, and as well as the children. So, there was an incident they talked about how there's a family of four, a mom, a dad, a son, and a daughter. The son is already starting to like control and hit his sister, even though the sister is older. The son is already making remarks about the mom being humiliating, and so he's already starting to degrade his mom and his sister. He's already adopting the patterns of his father, right? And so basically, we also see Tom control Alex directly, ruling over her clothing, right? What you're wearing is inappropriate. Some people see that as good parenting, right? I'm so sorry he didn't want to send his daughter into the world looking like a slut. That's what some people would justify it, right? It's a good parenting thing, but usually if he's already telling a woman or his wife or his girlfriend what to wear, the chances are he's also going to do the same thing with his daughter. Never usually the son, right? Um, and so basically, there's a level of authority that he has over the children. Even if he doesn't put in a lot of effort or sacrifice on their behalf, he still gets to show up and basically make all the decisions for them. They tend to ruin like authoritarian parents. They may not be involved in as much time, but when they do step in, it's their way or the highway, like I just said, right? My clients defend authoritarian parenting, even though a large collective of psychological studies demonstrate that it's destructive. Children do best when parents are neither overly strict nor overly permissive, providing firm structures but also allowing for dialogue, respect, conflict, and compromise. Children of abusers often find their father's attention and approval hard to come by. This scarcity has the effect of increasing his value in their eyes, right? Any attention from him feels special and exciting. This is again like that trauma bond. The worse he treats them, the more they want to hold on to that, the more that they're likely to actually like him better than the mom who's not abusive. Again, that's not to say that women are not always abusive in these situations or that they don't abuse children or vice versa, right? But again, for the most part, this is talking about abusive men. So the entitlement, he still feels entitled to his children like he does his wife or partner. They externalize responsibilities, so everybody has to kind of be taking care of him, including the kids, right? The manipulation also shows up here. Your partner may reward the kids for maintaining secrecy, right? They don't go outside and tell everybody what's going on in the family. They keep it to themselves. The abuser might like pay them or praise them for not talking about what goes on in the house. So children grow up with this idea that like we have to keep everything secret. There's a superiority again. I'm bigger than you. I am the ruler. This is my house. I am the head of the household. Right? There's a superiority complex there. They see children as inferior. There's a possessiveness, right? Children are an extension of them. You are my property. You do as I say. Children become like an object. A man who already considers his partner a possession can find it easy to see his children in the same way, but children are not things, and parents who see their children as an objectified way is likely to cause psychological harm because they don't perceive children as having rights. You don't have any rights. You're not even a real human being, actually, right? I own you. Again, it goes back the same thing with the what we talked about before. The public image is really important. They really want people to think they're great fathers, and so they will do stuff and post stuff publicly, but maybe that might not always be the case behind closed doors. It talks about physical abuse, and so they tend to be particularly harsh authoritarian parents. They're controlling and dictatorial partners. A man who was physically abused by his own parents while he was growing up might be likely to do the same. Um, Again, there are people who get abused as children and don't grow up to do the same thing to their children or their partners, right? It talks about incest, particularly among daughters and sometimes sons as well too. In cases of physical abuse of children, multiple research studies have found that men who abuse their partners perpetuate incest at a much higher rate than non-abusive men. These studies suggest that the incest perpetrator is not necessarily severely violent to the mother, but some degree of assault on her is common. The mentality and tactics of the incest perpetrator are very similar to those of the partner abuser, including self-centeredness, demands that his needs be catered to, manipulation, cultivation of a charming public persona, requiring the victim to keep the abuse secret, sorry. Although the percentage of outright sexual abuse appears to be fairly low, even among abusive men, partners of my clients frequently raise concerns about subtler kinds of boundary violations and other sexually inappropriate behaviors along the lines of those exhibited, right? A man who perceives his child as his own object is likely to disregard her rights to privacy or integrity over her own body. Boys are also at risk of being violated by abusive men as well, although most incest perpetrators choose to offend against a girl if one is available. Boys appear to be a particular risk when they are young, while the vulnerability of girls remains steady and may even increase during adolescence. And so, watching their children get rejected by their father can be really painful to a lot of women. And like I said earlier, the abuser becomes a role model to their kids, right? Tom makes it clear to his children that Helen, his wife, brings abuse upon herself. by being too emotional, by questioning his decisions, or by being overly angry. His son and daughter are likely to exhibit problems in how they treat other people because he has taught them how to blame others, especially women, females, for their actions. So girls, women and girls. Alex may believe that other people, especially men, have the right to mistreat her. Alex is a daughter. And that if she gets assaulted, it's her own fault, right? So the daughter takes on this thing of like, if other men treat me like my dad treats my mom, it's my fault, right? It's because I did something, because my mom is always to blame for why she gets abused, right? Um, Tom's behavior communicates to his children that having power over other people is a desirable goal. So both children, especially the son, is going to grow up thinking, wow, having power and control, dominating others, that's what we need to be doing, right? The possibility that sharing, equality, cooperation, mutual respect, it just doesn't seem as fulfilling. Why would I mutually respect somebody if I can just treat them like garbage? They stick around and still do everything they can for me. So children are learning early the benefits of abuse, right? Even though they become the recipients of abuse. And so children's parents are their first and most important source of sexual definitions and identifications. That's where we learn about a lot of gender expectations is from our parents, right? Tom is teaching his children, whether intentionally or not, to perceive women as the same degrading light as he casts on his wife. He reinforces these messages by treating Alex disrespectfully in public. Again, Alex is a daughter. Daughters of abusive men often have profound self esteem problems. Why wouldn't they? Look at what their abusers teaching them about how they value and worthy of respect women are, right? Why would you have any self esteem? You're learning from your father that women are just property, that women aren't to be valued, that a small girl like you, right? Son of abusive men, in turn, tend to be disparaging of and superior to girls and women, especially the boys become old enough to start dating, right? So mommies do the hard, constant, and responsible daily work of parenting, while daddies step in to make the key decisions and share the fun times. So, which is why a lot of men will see, even though they've been abusive growing up to their kids and their partners, especially the boys, right? Boys really want the validation. Boys tend to excuse their father's bad behavior because they themselves learn that they engage in the same bad behavior. So now that they are the abusers in their relationship, the sons have to kind of excuse it for their dads. Where they would grew up really upset at their father, now they're like, "Oh, come on, just let it go. Why won't you forgive him?" Because they're begging other people now to forgive them for their transgressions, right? They've learned to do what their father does, and the cycle repeats itself. Now they have daughters they don't respect. They're raising sons that they're teaching to be macho and superior, so on and so forth. It becomes a intergenerational cycle. Dad always comes out as a fun parent. Mom's always a strict one. Again, this is not absolutes, right? This is not for everybody. Children who grow up exposed to an abusive man's behavior learn that the abuse is a price people pay if they want to receive love. So if I want love, I just have to be willing to be okay with accepting abuse, right? If this person hits me, it's usually because they love me. They're trying to correct me. If they pull away and go nonverbal or get the silent treatment, it's because I did something wrong. So we grow up internalizing that everything is our fault. He does not literally want his son to mistreat women, but he doesn't believe he does so himself, right? He wants his son to think as he thinks, including adopting the same excuses and justifications, so the outcome is the same, right? Men don't literally want tell their sons go and beat women up, but they want their kids to think and behave the same way as they do, which is beat women up. Children who see or hear their father belittle their mother, silence her, walk away and ignore her, or physically intimidate her, learn that such behavior towards her is acceptable and effective. Most children of abused women are aware that their father does these things. Even if they don't name it as abuse, they know, they see what's going on, right? Kids are not. They're actually quite smart. Some of them will interfere with her parenting. They'll sabotage her parenting because they don't want her to be successful. They'll use the children as weapons in abuse, right? Another man was like, if you don't shut up, you're going to be really sorry. And he went, as he's having an argument with his wife, to retaliate against the wife because he knows that she's going to be upset if he does something to the kids. He went and ripped up his daughter's prom dress into pieces, right? So now the daughter doesn't have the prom dress. Now the daughter blames the mom because you should have kept your mouth shut. You shouldn't have egged him on when he shouldn't have done that, period. And so this is basically what they say. They put the women in a double bind, right? Um, they sow seeds of division in the family. If there's peace, then he's not happy, right? He loves it when there's division, when people are fighting each other, when the kids are upset and they're arguing against each other. Abuse is inherently divisive. Family members blame each other for the abuser's behavior because it is unsafe to blame him. Unless you're like an eldest daughter, we usually will point the blame where it is, and then then we catch the strays because you're like, why are you being so rude? Why are you being so rude to your dad? Why are you talking to him like that? Right? Because they're all afraid of him. They're all terrified of him. But you're just like, small girl like you. Woo! That's why a lot of men get really upset when they do gender reveals and they find out they're having a daughter because they know they are about to get a taste of their own medicine, right? Especially with the eldest daughters who don't take shit. But again, even that took a lot of years for us to be able to finally speak up, right? We can only do that because there's long distance, right? We're not physically in the same house. We don't have to see them. Then we learn to assert some agency, which is why they love to hook you. They don't want you to go. As soon as you go, then you assert some independence. You have agency. Now you're talking back. They don't like it. So basically, they sow seeds of division through favoritism, right? Their sons become their favorites, or maybe their daughter might be their favorite. But either way, they sow seeds of division through favoritism. Um, they openly shame one child over the other, right? Especially boys, if they're close to their moms, like, oh, he's such a wussy and he's such a mama's boy. We definitely do that, right? I've definitely done that. One of my aunts, anyways, they'll call them like, oh, mommy's pet, or they just, which again, sometimes the women do take it a little bit too far with the ways in which they coddle their sons, but he'll play on that. In public, he'll shame the kids in public, right? Oh, I don't know. Which is why when you talk about them publicly, now they don't like it. Oh, now you don't like it? Well, you get to go do it. They don't like the double standard, right? They could do it, but you can't do it. One reason is like his power is decreased if the family remains unified. If the family is unified, it's more likely that he doesn't feel like he has as much control, right? So, some ways to avoid this is to get good information about abuse. When a mother receives assistance from a program for abused women, it really helps her kids. Having access to children's services is also really helpful. Uh, Safety from the abuser, right? Leaving them, physically moving out of the home, access to supportive community resources. So having community, having a shelter to go to, right? A soup kitchen to get some food in the meantime. All of those social supports are really important, which is why when the government cuts all of these fundings, it typically affects women, especially single women who have kids, right? Because they become vulnerable. Even though society will tell you that a woman is supposed to depend on a man, right? Get married, have kids. You get married, you have kids, you do everything society told you to do. Now the man leaves you or he never took care of the kids, and now even though you're married, you're a single mom, right? Then they tell you don't work, so but you need to work, be able to afford stuff, and it just becomes this downward spiral of intergenerational poverty. And just mothers who work hard at her parenting and gets help, that helps the children, right? Try as hard as you can to not make your rage and frustration about your children. Look for books and lectures about parenting and discipline strategies. Seek support for your parenting from friends and relatives. Try to be open to suggestions or constructive criticism from others. These are all extraordinary challenges for an abused mother. No one should blame you if you can't do all of these things, especially all at once. But I find in the book, he says, I find that many abused women discover ways to be the best mothers they can be under the circumstances, and the children feel the difference, right? The abuser is simultaneously hated and revered. We talked about that. The kids usually tend to love their fathers. They find him really charming. They love how much power he has over everyone. There's a traumatic bonding, which we already talked about. The attachment styles. The abuser shapes how children and their mothers see him. It is common for a partner of one of the clients to say, he treats me terrible, but he's a good father. I already said that when we started. So self-care is really important for the moms. Again, post-separation, we talked about breaking up earlier. It's not any easier when you have kids. If anything, they try to use the kids against you. My hands are really dry. They try to use the kids to kind of reel you back in once you try to leave them. Again, the violence may continue. The violence may get worse if you decide to leave with the children. Same thing. It's just a lot of the same shit over and over and over, right? This one man, he got once he got his own apartment, he basically got the minimum, bare minimum, just got a mattress. Like his apartment looked really sad, right? So the kids come to visit him, they see how bad he's living, like no food in the fridge, not taking care of himself, his beard is growing out, he's in shape, he looks depressed, and now the kids feel terrible, they feel guilty, they go back, mom, you have to take him back. You have to bring him back into the house. He's living so sad. He's homeless now. He's this, right? And so guilt trips. And the man has money. He can afford to live a nice life. It's just he wants the kids to feel and see that like life isn't as good without them because he wants to manipulate them back in. That was one of the examples that was shared here. They try to use the kids for information on, is their mom dating? Um, they'll return the kids after visits like dirty or unfed or sleep deprived. Sometimes their house will be the fun house where all the kids get junk food and they can watch like whatever they want. No rules. They undermine the mom's parenting styles. They threaten to take the kids away, or they seek custody and visitations, even though they end up handing the kid off to their mom or their sister or somebody else to take care, or their new girlfriend, right? One case talked about how the man wanted full custody, but no, he wanted the woman to physically take care of the kid, but he gets to call all the shots, right? So it's just they often don't want to be the ones taking care of the kid, but they will ask for like sole custody, full custody because they know that it'll piss the woman off. So again, the retaliation, he wants her to fail, so he'll sabotage her. Again, same thing, we talked about that before. Because if she does do better, then it proves that he was a problem. He doesn't want people to think he's a problem. So he'll go out of his way to sabotage her as a mother. Um, Separation means he's losing control, so he doesn't like that. Again, we talked about a lot of this. He considers his children to be property. Again, same thing. He might go ballistic. I don't want another man around my kids, right? But usually women will make better decisions the next time because they learned a little bit. So the guy who comes in next usually treats the kids a little bit better, which he hates, right? Think of like Sierra and Russell, for instance. They don't like that. So basically, that's them as fathers. But also, if a man behaved responsibly towards the children prior to separation, he's gonna have the same character. It goes down to character, right? If he wasn't abusive to the mom before, he's probably not going to be abusive to the kids. Um, he generally didn't degrade her in front of if he didn't generally degrade her in front of the kids, he's not going to do that after they get divorced, right? If he wasn't selfish before, he's probably not going to be selfish now. It comes down to people's characters, right? It's who they are, it's how they think, it's their mentality. The ones who are intent upon settling old scores, those ones are terrible. Um, If they don't want to settle old scores, it's usually better, right? If they just want to move on with their life and start a new family and meet somebody else, it's usually better for the kids. But it's when the men start to see everything as a war, right? You're leaving me, war. You're taking the kids, war. That's usually when it's really hard. But otherwise, if they're a good person beforehand, they're going to usually continue a good person during divorce. That's when people are like, oh, divorce brings out all the ugly characters. I'm like, I don't think it was divorce. That was his character. He was probably like that when he was with you. It's just now you really, really see it because how dare you leave him, right? Most men who are in better economic positions will use that. They might be able to afford a lawyer and she can't. They might keep her in court to waste her money. He keeps dragging her back to court over and over again, knowing that it's financially draining her. The system usually will be in favor of him, right? You'll see the court siding with the dad sometimes, although the stereotype is that the court side with the mom. Sometimes, if she says he's stalking her, the courts will say that she's paranoid. One of the advice here is if you find out that your husband is molesting or sexually assaulting your daughter, don't go to the courts all panicked because they're going to be like, she's hysterical, and they're not going to be likely to believe you. They're like, be calm. But even though it's like, how are you calm in that situation where you just found out that your husband is assaulting your daughter, right? But basically, the advice is resist the urge to go in there hysterical because they're going to use that against you, right? Oh, she's just out to get the dad. Um, yeah, a lot of judges will believe them or like, oh, let's just leave it in the past, right? He's changed. Why don't you just move on? Everybody wants you to move on. Um, Most of my clients lie persuasively with soulful facial expressions, good eye contact, and colorful details. It says that's why sometimes lie detector tests don't work for them because they generally do believe in their lies, right? Or they'd be like, oh well, she accuses him, he accuses her of doing the same thing, so they must be abusing each other. That's another big one that the courts come up with. Those who leave tend to give their child a better attempt at life because she's supporting her self-protective instincts, which is teaching the kids that they can also protect themselves. Um, yeah, so basically, this is some of the. It's important to keep records of abuse if you have, especially towards children. Seek legal representation if you can afford it. If you don't have resources, apply for legal service attorney. Find somebody who knows how to work with domestic violence abusers, who respects them, because not all lawyers are equal. It basically says avoid abruptly denying him visitation, because he's probably going to seek retaliation, and then the courts are going to think you're just, there's no reason to do that to him. They'll side with him. Make sure that you try to show the courts that like he's skillfully lying. Yeah, again, if you'll get labeled as hysterical. So no matter how justified your reaction is, your report may be discredited, right? Read A Mother's Nightmare Incest, which is a resource that he offers. Get help, have community, take care of yourself, be patient and understanding with your kids, make your time for your own healing, insist on complete respect from your children, insist on respect for women in general from your kids, right? Teach your kids to value all men and women. Confront your partner's undermining of your parenting if you can. Be the best parent you can be. Consider leaving. Don't lie on your partner's behalf just to cover for him. A good father does not abuse his child's mother. Abusers drive wedges between people by accident or by design. Abused mothers and their children should seek support to heal as individuals and together. If you're preparing to leave your abuser with your child, seek legal advice first. So these are the kind of, this was chapter 10. Healing ruptured relationships takes time. So this is almost half an hour. I'm gonna end it there, but that was what abusive men are like as parents, basically. So take care of yourself. Again, trigger warnings for all of these. I hope you're taking care of yourself. I wanted to get this done today, but I think we're gonna have to do another day because I'm not done reading it yet. I'm almost done. So maybe tomorrow I'll continue with chapters 11, 12. I think there's 14 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's 14. There's 15 chapters. There's 15 chapters. So I'll continue tomorrow. Okay? So until next time, in solidarity.